How much will the Seattle Seahawks be able to lean on their deep and talented cornerback room in 2024? Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We've got another video here full of predictions, some individual predictions. Now we're doing cornerbacks. We are doing the cornerbacks, another position of relative strength. I think we need to see a little bit more this season before we definitively say that it's a position of strength. But really, it should be. And if there's one position that I feel like Pete Carroll did a really good job of leaving his successor with a lot of good stuff to work with, it would probably be here. Pete is the cornerback whisperer, and the cornerbacks that he's leaving behind as he leaves that post as the Seahawks head coach, it's pretty good. And it should be good enough to do a lot of good things with, especially if you're a coach like Mike Macdonald, who has a track record of working really well with assorted defenses. So, going to take a look at the cornerbacks here, but for those of you who might be needing a little bit of catch up, the Seahawks recently spent a top 5 pick on a cornerback in Devin Witherspoon, who proceeded to have a monstrous rookie season. You've also got Reek Woolen, who made the Pro Bowl and was one of the better corners in the league just a couple years ago before having a little bit of a down year last year. You still got Mike Jackson and Trey Brown, two guys who have played more good than bad over their Seahawks career so far and might be lining up to get I would say a nice little contract. Not a huge contract, but a noticeable contract on the open market next season. And then you've got two rookies that the Seahawks just picked out of Auburn in Pritchett and James. So there's a good amount to work with here. It's a cornerback room that has two guys that have very recently played at Pro Bowl, maybe even All-Pro levels. So the expectations are high. And while I do think the other parts of this defense will be good, this is definitely a positional group that the Seahawks are going to have to lean on, and they need to be able to lean on because of the resources they have spent here. And that might be without either rookie seriously touching the field because of the veterans having so much going on positively. Before I get into the numbers here, please like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. You can click the notification bell to get updates on videos as they get posted. Consider becoming a channel member. Click the join button down below, $2 a month. All right, let's get to it here, starting with the star of the show. And I know that there are some big Reek Woolen fans out there, and I don't blame them, but I think we know who the star of the show is overall in this cornerback room after last year. Devin Witherspoon was a bright spot on a really bad defense last year, was in the competition for Rookie of the Year on the defensive side of the ball. In my opinion, he got overlooked a little bit for it, even though I don't know if he should have won it. And I'm expecting big things in his second year. You would expect a player to improve in their second year. That's just like common sense. And some of the areas in which he struggled in a little bit last year should get better, and he should go on to become one of the best all-around cornerbacks in football. Tackles, I'm going to go with 85. Witherspoon is an excellent tackler. We all know this. That's maybe his most impressive skill set. We also know that he's likely to end up in playing nickel corner or slot corner a pretty good amount this year. I think he slides inside on a lot of nickel or slot downs and then plays outside when the opponent is in base. And if he plays inside, he's going to be more involved in run defense because he's going to be closer to the middle of the field. So I think that there are going to be a ton of tackle opportunities for him, even if he doesn't give up a ton of completions. So I went with 85 based on what he did last year. It's pretty reasonable. Now, I would hope that it's a little bit less. If it's less, that means he's giving up even fewer catches. But I'm going to say 85. I think that he will give up a fair few completions because teams are going to be forced to target him more than they will feel comfortable doing so because of circumstance. I do think this will give him a ton of opportunities to make plays on the ball, though, so I went with 19 passes defensed, which seems really high, but when you look at how many he had last year, and you consider the fact that he missed time last year, he missed some games, he missed some snaps, I think Witherspoon should be able to make plays on the ball a lot. So I went with 19, which would be more than one a game. And then I went with 5 interceptions. I think that he kind of got hosed out of some interception opportunities last year. He only had the one. I don't think there's anything intrinsic with Devin Witherspoon to say that he won't be able to get interceptions. I think that there's a certain level of comfort that he didn't have last year that he should have this year because of the experience. So 5 interceptions. I do think he's going to get targeted a good amount because you got to target somebody, and this team, at least in terms of pass defense, might have a little bit of a weakness at the inside linebacker spot, but overall, I don't think there's going to be anybody really obvious to pick on every single snap. So you're going to have to throw at Witherspoon a decent amount. So 91 targets. I think he'll give up about 54 completions, which, I mean, the completion percentage would be a little bit worse than it was last year, but I think that'll just be kind of the expectation when you're asking so much of a guy. He's just going to give up a little bit more. The efficiency goes down as the volume goes up. And he's going to give up a lot of yards because that's a lot of targets, 513. I'm happy to live with that, with this number of targets. Last year he gave up 5 touchdowns. I'm going to say 3 this year. I think he cleans things up around the red zone a little bit, gives up fewer touchdowns. Let's go with 3. I think 3 sounds like a pretty good number here. So it should be another really good season for him. If he can do these things, then he will absolutely be on the way to being one of the best players in football and among the best in the league at his position. It's bold, but I think it should be expected of a guy with this much talent. Then we got Riq Woolen, who I've talked about this a little bit. I don't know what his future is, and if somebody comes back from 6 months from now and tells me that, hey, Riq Woolen got benched midway through the season because he can't tackle and McDonald wasn't having it, I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't be shocked because I recognize there is a problem here. Woolen is not a good tackler. He's not a willing tackler either, really. Like, there have been other corners in this league who are not very good tacklers, but they're willing. Woolen's a guy who will dog it a little bit, and I don't know if McDonald's going to put up with that. I just don't. But, and I want to stress this, even last year when Woolen had, by his standard, a disappointing season, I do agree with everybody who said he had a down year last year, his coverage numbers were still excellent, so we are tremendously incentivized to make this work. So when it comes to Riq Woolen, I am going to say he gets it together. He has to know this is a big year for him, and Woolen hasn't made money yet. Woolen hasn't made much money at all in the NFL yet. He's tremendously incentivized to succeed over this next year, maybe next 2 years, because that's when his contract would be up. So 65 tackles. He's obviously not going to be the Witherspoon type of tackler, but he'll get his just because he'll be on the field a lot. And I think that he's going to take the next step here in this regard. He won't be great at it, but at least he won't be untenable at it. He'll continue to excel in coverage, which is his strength. I have 18 passes defensed and 4 interceptions. He's got great hands. So when he gets opportunities to get picks, he should be able to cash in on them. Went with 68 targets. I think teams are starting to understand this is not a guy you want to pick on in coverage. You want to avoid Riq Woolen. Honestly, I think that there's an argument right now you'd rather throw at Witherspoon because he hasn't proven to be the ball hawk that Woolen has been. But I think that might be dispelled this season. But 68 targets and 36 completions for a grand total of 405 yards. Again, it's fine given this number of targets. Maybe it would be a little bit of a letdown after what he's done his first 2 years with his coverage numbers. But again, you have to throw at somebody. You're going to get completion some of the time. Remember, they're making defense harder and harder to play every year. And I say he gives up 2 touchdowns. I think he'll be good in that capacity. My fear with Woolen would be penalties. I'm wondering about penalty stuff. Okay, so now we have the guys who they're going to play situationally. They're going to play nickel. They're going to play dime. Jackson might be the outside corner in nickel, and Witherspoon slides inside. Trey Brown might be the dime who occasionally plays outside. Maybe Jackson plays in situations where Woolen's bad tackling is starting to really hurt the team. I don't know exactly how this is going to shake out, but I know these guys are going to get used a decent amount. Jackson's a good player. So 39 tackles, one way or the other, he gets on the field enough for 39 tackles. And I'm going with 9 passes defensed. So I mean, that's evidence of a guy who's on the field a decent amount. Interceptions, I just went with 1. He's not a huge ball hawk kind of guy, but I think he'll get a 1 over the course of the season. I got 41 targets for him and 29 completions. He's not locked down the way that a Woolen or a Witherspoon can be or will be, but it'll be sufficient. It'll be passable. 339 yards, which, I mean, you're not getting great results here, but you're not going to get stellar results from every cornerback on your team. There's going to be one guy who's like, okay, he's a little bit of the mark, and this wouldn't be that bad. 41 targets, 339 yards. That's not that bad. And I gave him 3 touchdowns allowed because the touchdowns have to come somewhere. All right, so that is Jackson. Then we have Trey Brown, a guy who I like what I see from him. I don't totally know where he fits in right now because the thing with Trey Brown, he's also not a great tackler. His skill set seems to be more cultivated to play outside, though. So you're really going to sub in Brown for Woolen for tackling purposes? Brown's not really a better tackler. Maybe he's a little more willing, but the results are not great or anything there. So I'm going to assume he gets in at various points throughout the season because of injury, players being tired, maybe players being disciplined for bad not bad tackling because that's kind of counterintuitive, but maybe making mistakes. Trey Brown has shown some really good stuff. It's just one of those things where I think that the opportunities won't be there in great amounts. 36 tackles, I mean, that would still be sufficient to get an idea of what he can do. 6 passes defensed. Let's give him 1 interception as well. He had a couple last year. I say he gets targeted 40 times, gives up 26 completions, pretty decent. 299 yards. I'm happy to live with that from a 4th corner. And I went with 3 touchdowns as well. I think that when these guys get on the field, they will be targeted more because it's better than targeting Witherspoon and Woolen. It just is. So I'm sure Brown and Jackson will get targeted in the red zone for that reason. All right, finally we have the 2 rookies. We have Nehemiah Pritchett here. I don't see these guys playing that much. There is a significant amount of stuff in front of them. You've got Witherspoon, you've got Woolen, you've got Jackson, you've got Brown. You might have Kobe Bryant, you might have Julian Love in a slot role. There's a lot going on in front of these 2 guys. So I don't think they play. I think they kind of redshirt. Maybe they get out there in garbage time. So I gave Pritchett 5 tackles, 1 pass defensed, no interceptions, 2 targets, and 2 completions. I'm sorry, this should be 3 because if he defends a pass, then it's obviously not getting completed. For 12 yards and no touchdowns, just kind of get your feet wet in a non-competitive situation. And DJ James, kind of the same thing. I did 2 tackles, and then I think this is all pretty much 0. Yeah, I had 1 target, but I mean, at that point, you're just guessing. It's just random garbage time stats that don't really mean that much. So, not much from the rookies this year. We're not going to need it, hopefully. If we need it, it means people got hurt or people are not playing as expected, which we don't want. But, yeah, we have a good cornerback room in theory if things work out well this year, if Woolen can get it together and be the player that he should physically be capable of being. There's no reason why this can't be a reality. There's no reason why this can't happen. So 11 interceptions from the cornerbacks, just under 1,600 yards allowed in coverage. Again, I think that you're going to see other positions kind of get targeted for big a lot of stuff through the air, like positions a little bit more of weakness instead of attacking our positions of strength. So it's going to be partially a product of that. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. If we can get this out of our cornerback room, that's good. All right. See you guys later. More videos coming soon. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think.